be afraid to finesse it a little bit. Especially back in here where no one's ever going to see it. Except for everybody that watches this video.
Oh yeah!
My wife's gonna be pissed. I stole her scissors. Making patch panels, pretty straightforward concept really. Paper helps. Get your shapes figured out and then transfer them onto metal. Yep, I can live with that line. I like it. Save these templates. I'm gonna start selling them in case anybody needs any rust patch panel. Shut up. That was stupid. And then you just transfer that template onto a piece of metal, slice that out with a plasma cutter. If you're just a G like me, melt your fingers off doing it. You definitely don't need a plasma cutter for this kind of stuff. It's what I got, so it's what I use, but really this steel is way too thick to be doing any real patch panels. It doesn't, I mean, you need some thinner stuff. This is just something I had laying around. I can make it work. If you're actually just cutting sheet metal, you've got an air compressor. One of these tools, pretty handy. It's called a nibbler, and it just takes out little pieces of metal. You run it along, and it just kind of chews away at the metal. Gives you a pretty clean cut, but those work pretty well for sheet metal. Those things are only like 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight's pretty sweet for doing metal work. They got a lot of cheap tools to get you in. None of it's going to last a long time, but if you're just doing one project, it'll usually last you through one project. So I'm going to let this cool down so I don't melt my hand again. It's healing up. It's healing up. That was so stupid. She's up there. Yeah, you just cut it a little larger than what you're going to need and go back through and just grind your edges until you get it to fit how you want it to. Like I said, pretty straightforward stuff. Once you get it set up there, and then you're going to start welding some tacks, pretty slow. Like I said, this metal is pretty thick. This metal can hold up to quite a bit of heat, whereas the factory metal is a lot thinner. It'll blow through pretty fast. So just run short little, like 1/4-inch tacks. See how it does. You might be able to run a little stitch weld, about a 1/2 inch and stop, 1/2 inch stop. You want to keep moving your spot that you're giving it heat. A big issue with putting in a patch panel is the amount of heat that you put on the panel. That's usually what causes the big distortions. Not that it's super critical inside of a wheel well, especially I'm going to be putting trim over this anyway. Real thugged out chrome trim that everybody puts in their Lincoln. I want to be like everybody. So I'm going to do that. So it's not super critical, but if you were welding in a patch, like a quarter panel, if you're putting a new quarter on and you cut it up there and you're welding a seam, you really want to be gentle with how much heat you're putting in that, because it'll wave your panel pretty quick. If anybody wants to judge me for having a leather blanket in my lap, I've obviously never had a hot ember fall on their twig and berries mid-weld. Not a great feeling. It's actually a jacket, which a jacket would be kind of handy because it falls down. I'm gonna stop being a wuss and I'm just gonna go for it. Pretty much the best at anything I do, so I'm not really surprised, but I guess, except for YouTube, making videos, I'm not the greatest at that because I can't even hold a camera still. But everything else, pretty much pro level at. Look at that. It's still hot. Don't touch it, but it's got metal there again. I don't know what that proves. It proves that it's not going to fall off. I mean, if your welds are so bad that they fall off from tapping on it, you got a real problem. I've seen people do that with reinforcements on the frames, pulling on it. Like, that's not going anywhere. Yeah, your hands aren't going to pull it off. Congratulations. You must be a welder. Another fancy piece I made. Didn't really film this one because it was a real mother to get that just right. It would have been a 15-minute video of me just holding it up there, grinding. Holding it up there, grinding. So I spared you guys that, and it's complete. Man, that's some thick metal. Really shouldn't use this thick metal to be doing patches, but lowriders need all the reinforcements they can get, right? Every time I run a little tack weld in this, I can feel the whole panel twisting. You really should never run that long of a bead on a piece of sheet metal. But with some thick sheet metal, I wouldn't even call this sheet metal, I'd call it plate. Steel plate. But it didn't burn through because it's so thick, but on normal sheet metal, the 18 gauge sheet metal, it would burn right through that. Too much heat. I'm gonna throw some Bondo on it, man. Freaking, I'm gonna mud her up, dude. Put a little Bondo on it and just good as new. Stop. Stop with the Bondo, please, people. If you're trying to fix rust, any sort of real reasonable way, unless you're just taking the thing to the dealership that day to trade her in, don't use mud on rusty areas. Don't use Bondo on rusty areas. Use fiberglass filler. Fiberglass is waterproof, doesn't hold any moisture. It'll get you a few more days anyway before it starts rusting again. Yeah, don't use just regular filler, plastic filler on this. That stuff holds moisture. So grind all this down, and then I'm going to put some fiberglass filler over this through my seams. I'm going to seam seal all in here, so that'll help prevent more rust and seal it up from any moisture getting in there. Mud this seam seal along the bottom here, and a little bit on the inside of the door jamb. We'll be ready to paint. Oh, and then I got like 47 dents to fix on the quarter, so no, we're not ready to paint. all metal again, no rust. Now there's still some rust back there, but you ain't gonna get it all. You ain't. There's no way around it. Do what you can. Right in here, from the factory, that has a gap, and then it has seam sealer in there. That's why I didn't weld that. Keep it factory original, you know what I'm saying? I like it OG. That's all patched in. New metal. That has a sharp, like a razor sharp edge. I need to do something about that. I'm gonna put some fiberglass on this, on these edges, a little bit in there. I'm not gonna get too crazy with fiberglass. I'll probably put a little bit here, but I'm not gonna get too crazy with underneath. There's a big metal rocker molding that covers up, I mean, 90% of what I just did. So I just did this for structure, to have something to, you know, have behind that rocker molding. Most guys would probably just leave it alone. But at least this way it'll be a little more solid behind there. So I'm not going to get crazy with finishing out so it's laser straight. I'm not worried about that. I just want it to have some structure. So yeah, let's get some fiberglass on it. All right, a couple tips for mud mixers out there. Get yourself some paint sticks. Stop digging in there with the screwdriver, okay? Get it out with the paint sticks. Also, stop mixing on cardboard. Stop mixing on pizza boxes. Stop it. These things are like 16 bucks, okay? They're clean sheets. You peel it off. You got a fresh surface. You don't have to go buy another pizza just to have a clean box, just so you can mix up your mud. So, clean sheets, paint sticks, pretty much a requirement. It's a little warm here today, so this fiberglass is a little runny. Make it easier to spread. All right. What you want to do is you want to look at your mud. See how much you think you have there. How you want to think of that is in golf balls. How many golf balls do you think you can make out of the material that's there? That's how you know how much hardener to put in there. So I would say, looking at that, just judged by the scientific proportions there, I could make about three golf balls, maybe 4. So you want about an inch for every golf ball of hardener. So you want about 3 or 4 inches of hardener. Adjust that for your days, whether it's hot or cold. Obviously when it's cold you add a little more hardener. When it's hot, I would say add less, but it usually doesn't matter if it's too hot. It just kind of dries when it wants to, but you can try to add a little less. But it really doesn't matter. Alright, it's on there. I didn't get to film it going on there because I only have one GoPro, and it was here. I couldn't turn it off because I was mixing mud.